Hey YouTube, what is going on? Thank you for checking out the Straight SRT8 YouTube channel. Now behind me I have my Jeep SRT, and I installed an oil catch can about a year and a half, 2 years ago. So I want to show you guys a quick video on why oil catch cans are important and why I purchased mine. So behind me we have the oil catch can purchased from Billet Technologies. So the turnaround time is about 6 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks maybe. It takes a little bit of time to get the oil catch can in once you purchase it. But is it worth it? So right here, for a quick review of how oil catch cans work, we have the oil that gets spurted up through here. That goes to the oil catch can, and then goes into the catch can, drops down from gravity, gets rerouted through this tubing back to your intake manifold. So without the oil catch can being present, what usually happens is oil comes up through here past your pistons, gets routed right to here, and goes right into your intake manifold. This then goes down through your valves and goes back into your engine to get burned off. Now, one downside of that is that if you have oil going into your air intake, which is obviously supposed to be for air, it ends up causing an inconsistent burn. So instead of burning oxygen with gas, you end up burning oil with oxygen with gas, which gives you less of an efficient burn. When it does that, it ends up retarding your timing a little bit. That causes you to get robbed of some horsepower and some torque. So when you're racing, it's kind of very detrimental to have that oil inside your intake manifold. Now, what's worth doing is, again, buying this oil catch can. So is it actually worth it, and why? Well, this is about a month of oil worth in my catch can. So it's about right here. So maybe halfway-ish full. The oil is like a milky, dark oil. Now this would have gone through my intake manifold, gotten burned off, covered my valve stems, gone to the actual pistons, and gotten burned off and exploded out the back of the car. So that's quite a bit of oil, as you can see. Now the positive thing about Hemis is that the oil is actually, or the gasoline is squirted over the valves, so that ends up cleaning the valves. They're actually very pristine. So even having this issue, your valves themselves will be pretty clean. But a downside is that you're going to get that retarded timing from having oil being burned off, not just oxygen. So if you're planning on racing your car, tracking your car, competitively racing, or want to maximize your horsepower and torque output of your engine, you need to have an oil catch can. There's no two ways about it. Now the reason Jeep didn't do this from the start, as I covered in another video, is because of the cost. So in order to figure out, let's say everyone changes their car every 10,000 miles for oil, you need to have a very big oil catch can down here. Again, this is from a month. Maybe it's from 2,000 or 3,000 miles. It's quite a bit of oil. If you had a 5,000 or 10,000 miles, you need a catch can that's this big. It's a huge catch can. And then you need to incorporate that in your service manual too. So Jeep doesn't have that in there as a stock OEM option, but as an aftermarket option, it is definitely a must for those who are looking for that extra performance for an insignificant cost. So my oil catch can costs about $200 from Billet. Again, you can get them anywhere on eBay, on Amazon, anything like that. They're all pretty much the same. The whole point is to have oil and air come through this tube, goes into here, the air passes through, and the oil, of course, drops down due to gravity and comes out the bottom end and returns air to your intake manifold. Of course, the oil gets captured here. Most oil catch cans are bi-directional. You can have oil coming this way or this way. Either way, as I mentioned before, they're all gravity fed and it drops back down. So they are pretty critical to keeping the performance of your engine at its peak. Now, one thing I will mention is that in the winter time, this oil is going to turn like a milky white. Now, usually that means that your coolant has gotten mixed with your oil. It's a huge issue. Maybe you have a cracked engine block. It can be a very alarming thing to see, but keep in mind that the oil inside this catch can does not actually come just from here. The oil obviously comes from here, but you get moisture, you get different changes in humidity, you get temperature changes to go into this catch can, and by the time you pull this oil out and you look at it, it's going to be milky. That does not mean your engine oil, is milky. If you want to check if you have a coolant leak or milky engine oil, you want to go ahead and pull up your dipstick that says engine and check that out to make sure that this is not milky. If this engine oil is milky, you got a problem. If this is milky, it's not a problem. So keep that in mind. When I first pulled mine out, I did a change in the middle of winter. It was milky, it was chunky, and I was like, oh shit, I blew an engine block. But when I checked the actual dipstick, everything was alright. So keep that in mind too. Now, do I recommend buying an engine oil catch can? Absolutely. For a very small amount of money, you can help maintain and make sure your engine is operating at its peak performance. That way, in case you want to do an instant drag or instant pull, or do some street racing or even professional drag racing, your engine's going to be in its top performing capabilities. So it's definitely worth buying an oil catch can. You don't need to go with billet. However, billet has it tied into this harness right here above your ECU, which is very convenient. The tubing is nice and neat too. They offer different grades of tubing. This is the more basic package, the way it looks more OEM to me. They do offer braided lines. They offered colored matching right here. I chose black. You can choose any color you want, and this also comes in a variety of different colors too. The way you can try and change the engine bay, the color of your engine bay, and kind of super it up, so to speak. But point being, if you buy an oil catch can, make sure you change your oil catch can at least once a month. Again, this is quite a bit of oil from inside this past month. So they definitely work, they definitely do their job, and they help maintain your peak performance. If you are getting a professional tuner, and your tuner wants to tune your engine, you need to have an oil catch can. Again, your tuner is looking at the way your air to oil ratio or your air to fuel ratio works. They're looking at the timing in the engine, and if you don't have an oil catch can, you're going to throw all this oil into your engine. It's going to screw with your timing. It's going to affect your tune. You want to give your tuner the best chance possible to maximize your tune, which means getting rid of unwanted components into your air intake, meaning get rid of that oil. So if you're going to have a professional tuned engine, make sure you go with a oil catch can and remove that oil going into your intake manifold. So as I was ready to end this video, I started emptying out my oil catch can and realized that there is some milky white oil in here. So I'm going to give you guys a quick show of how that actually looks. So right in here, you can see that milky white chunky oil. This is at the bottom of my darker oil that I just showed in a few minutes ago. This all came from the engine during I call it a decently summer day. It's been kind of cold and warm out, kind of mixture of the two. But this is what you're going to see in the dead of winter. You're going to see this oily, chunky, white, milky substance in your oil catch can. Again, do not worry if you see this, it's perfectly fine. As long as your dipstick shows no chunky oil, and as long as you do an oil change and it comes out great, you are in great condition. So do not be alarmed when you see this in your oil catch can. Alright, thanks.